gains of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, visit to Brazil. And one of the gains, one of the striking key gains is that Petrobras, Brazilian authority oil company that left Nigeria in 2017, are making a return back to Nigeria. And here we are. Let's talk about what really happened. What happened why they left, and what is happening why are they coming back. So, Engineer Dr. Enang is joining me right now so that we can extray some of those issues around it. Doctor, a very good day to have you on the show.
Good day. Thank you very, very much.
All right, so let's get down. I don't need to even waste any more time with you, whether any introduction. How did you receive the news of Petrobras coming back to Nigeria energy market?
I think for me, it's a really exciting, moment, to be honest, because, if you look at why most companies leave, they leave because maybe the potential to scale is limited in that particular, ecosystem. Perhaps maybe the assets they owned at that particular point in time were limited, and they do not think they really would have the support necessary to scale. Or perhaps at that point in time, the body language of the government wasn't giving such investors confidence to allow them, be able to, put out that, the intentions to scale their operations. Perhaps maybe the market conditions was very, very difficult at that time. Maybe debt, for example, in the case of a JV, a joint venture, where we have the government put forward their own bit of the funding and investors put forward their own bit of the funding. So when we have such a situation, and maybe there is a lot of debt, as it used to be back in 2017, where there were billions of dollars of debt, then it will be discouraging to companies. And right about the same time frame, we had ConocoPhillips and other companies leave as well. So I think it is very, very exciting. It's very fulfilling to see that they are beginning to put forward the intentions to come back. It definitely means that something has changed. So in a nutshell, let's look at what has been different. For starters, Nigeria has, reasserted itself as not only the dominant player when it comes to reserves, but also a dominant player when it comes to the exploration and the contextualization of the wealth that we have, that we are ready to even, license out to investors for them to start producing. Because you can say arbitrarily that we have, maybe 36 or, billion sort of reserve, billions of barrels sort of reserved. But if you have not done exploration and begin to look at, okay, at this acreage, this is how much we have, and this is the data for that, then that's the exploration effort. We will not be able to get anybody attracted. It just remains the, having some kind of arbitrary data about our national data about the reserves that we have. But this particular government has started very intensive exploration efforts, and that helps to qualify and quantify each of the assets that we have across the various points that we are trying to contextualize, and then we can then do that as a bidding round and give that to investors to come in and bid. What has changed also? Look, the PIA is a stabilizing factor in all of these, contexts, because the PIA has come to give a more, certain outlook on the governance framework. And of course, it gave the bedrock upon which the president has built upon to further sweeten our fiscal incentives. The PIA gave us a framework, but the president has built on that to give us several presidential directives on oil and gas reforms, making the Nigerian, the Nigerian ecosystem to have shorter contracting cycles, and of course also have better fiscal incentives in terms of return, and also create an incentive for people to scale up more of their production activities, particularly towards gas, and then get some tax benefits on that. So I think that is a big game changer. The other thing is that Nigeria right now, I can tell you for certain, has begun to use what I'll call some sort of cluster economics. Cluster economics is where you're trying to contextualize some of those acreage or some of those assets, and then you bid them out, support or create the enablers for companies to come in and start to develop those assets, and then you make sure that there is at the regulatory level that you enforce sharing of resources, sort of some sort of synergy between the various investors that are looking at assets that are close by them. For example, we could reduce logistics costs if we can share some of those costs across the field. So those cluster economics has now dropped the potential unit price of production, and has now meant that companies that were finding it difficult to even come in and produce solely can now come in with the thoughts or the hindsight that they will get some sort of cluster economics working in their favor. So there's a number of things that Nigeria has done very well, and of course the body language of this particular administration shows that this is a sustainable approach that they're taking, and this is something that they intend to even enshrine within the regulatory provision. So it's not just a one-off gimmick; it's something that is going to be sustained at least for the nearest term in Nigeria. Hello, I can't hear you. Hello,
I can hear you.
I can't hear the audio. Okay.
Are you hearing me
Loud
now?
and clear, I can hear you.
All right. So
Loud
what I'm
and
trying
clear.
to push out right now is that for many viewers who are watching us right now, who may be hearing Petrobras is an oil company of the Brazilian government, and it came into Nigeria in 1998, and they have been doing business, but all of a sudden in 2017, they diverged their investment of over 21 billion US from Nigeria. So for you, Doc, my question is this: with this return of Petrobras, do you see it as a linkage to other companies who left Nigeria to start thinking of returning back to Nigeria?
Yes, it's definitely a linkage. Let me say for certain, I'll start by saying the adage that the oil and gas industry is huge in money value, but very small in contacts. They are all the same players, the same sort of investors. Petrobras may have a separate name, but they perhaps still tap from maybe one hedge fund that is sitting somewhere in maybe Saudi Arabia, sitting somewhere, So the funding, if you trace the money, you find out that it comes from a very small pool of people. That's the truth of the matter. I mean, if you look at BlackRock, for example, they fund more than about 35% of the world's, oil and gas investments, and that's a very huge fund. So you can imagine that at the same time there could be partially or through a proxy funding things in Nigeria, funding things in Brazil, funding things in all over the world. So when you send such a signal to an industry that is huge in volume,
exactly,
and very small in the investor, in terms of the investor contracts, then you are going to definitely have some interest. They will be looking to see, well, let's use the Petrobras as a litmus test. Is this just a talk for the camera? Are there some action items from both parts that would bring this into fruition? If you notice the word, they said Petrobras may consider coming back, and that's the context used for the most part.
Exactly.
But there are still some action items. That means that both nations need to synergize together, clear those action items, and create a path forward for the company to come back. So there are a number of things that Nigeria is doing to reassert itself as an energy giant. At the time, before now, Angola's production even surpassed our own. We used to be second,
exactly.
But now we've gone back to the first on the African continent in terms of production. So that's the first one. We have very aggressive plans. You can also see that we are bullish. If you look at maybe the stock market, they said
yes,
we are bullish in our approach because we have also used our dominance to make some to contextualize exactly or defend why we should the African Energy Bank should be domiciled in Abuja. And we have won that case, and that is coming. So those are little bits of nuggets. If you look at the Tesco in the UK, the Tesco write-up, it says every little helps. So every little approach that we're taking builds a bigger picture that Nigeria is ready to seize that energy dominance once and for all and run with it.
Exactly. Very interesting. Now, Doc, in 1 minute before I let you go, what would be your advice to the government? One of the key challenges that we have had in that oil and gas industry is that the bureaucratic and politicization of that industry is one issue. You rightly said it. Beyond camera, camouflaging, showing the laughing, showing the signing of MOU, something greater needs to be done, physically and practically. But what would be your advice to the government on this particular landmark, record that we are witnessing right now?
All right, so I'm going to advocate certainly for us to, give this to a specialist team to steward. I'm going to come from the adage that a chicken that is owned by the entire village will soon die of hunger. Because whenever the chicken goes to one compound, the person is like, don't worry, he has already eaten in the other house before he came here. And because the chicken cannot talk, the chicken will keep roaming, and the other person is assuming that the other person would have fed it. But if that chicken is owned by one person, then that person knows that if he has not fed that chicken cannot eat. So this is what I'm asking. The president deployed the same approach when he wanted to roll out presidential initiatives on oil and gas reforms. Was a specialist team that looked at it, created all the framework. The president gave them the autonomous autonomous standing to be able to do whatever they need to do and quickly enough. So they went straight to work, did it. There was no issue of them being have encumbered by the civil service or the bureaucratic process and all of that. They had to just report directly to the president. So if I was the president, instead of a very minute set of effective and efficient experts that will go straight to work, put out the action plan, have a counterpart meeting, put out the action plans to operationalize and make that work out, and then begin to steward it. And then we have meetings every now and then to show how we are going to closure, and then finally to help onboard the companies back into Nigeria. I think that's the best way to work.
Interesting. Doc, these are quite laudable submissions from you, particularly checking out and giving out a very instructive advice to the government on how best they can get it done. I really appreciate you for coming on the show today. And it's a developing issue. We may still have to revisit it, particularly with what you said. A report just came out that our production for barrel per day is now 1.8 million crude oil production per day. July sustenance of such production is up, and NUPRI is also saying that this could be a trend that we could sustain all through the year. So it's a developing issue that we also need to call on you so that we can extract some of those developments. But thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thank you very much, and do have a lovely day.
Same to you, sir. Same to you.